Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're driving a little red Ferrari. This is a 1984 308 GTSI. The GTS means it's got the Targa roof as opposed to a GTB, and the I means it's got the K-Jetronic Bosch fuel injection system. No carburetors here because this is the end of the run. They were built from 1975 to 1985. It's powered by a transversely mounted 2.9 liter V8 that makes about 230 horsepower and just under 200 pound-feet of torque, mated to a 5-speed dogleg transaxle. So you get the full Ferrari experience out of this gated shifter and relatively high revving V8. This kind of sets the pace for all of the two-seater mid-engine V8 Ferraris to come. But man, there were so many variations of this car. But first, let's soak up the style of the 308. Honestly, I love a 328. I think the 328 is probably the better driving car, if we're being honest. But there's something about this car that really does it. Now, in 1975, when this came out, they were a little bit different. They weren't running fuel injection, they were carbureted, they weren't running 4 valves per cylinder like this car. And it was a major departure from the style of the 246. I think this really brings things into the modern era. And they also came out with the 308 GT4, which is the 2+2 Dino, but that's a Bertone design instead of a Pininfarina design. They look very different, although they are largely the same car. It's just that the 2+2 GT4 has a slightly longer wheelbase. But you're probably interested in the operation of all the things. I love these door handles. This is one of the most delicate door handle I've ever operated. I think it's really fun. You always feel like, okay, you want to be gentle with that because you don't want to rip it off. I'm sure it's fine, but still, it's a Ferrari. When you drive them, you grab them by the scruff, but all the other things around them, trim pieces and stuff, you want to be gentle around. Let's get under the hood. Back here, like I said, this is a transversely mounted V8. So it's facing this direction, not longitudinally, which for services is going to make things a little bit easier. Although, obviously, these spark plugs are going to be a lot easier to access than those spark plugs. And I was just in here fiddling with some camera gear, so you get a little bit of storage space back here. But overall, this essentially is the same as the later 328 that we've experienced on the channel before back here in terms of layout. And then up front, you get basically no space for anything but your spare tire. If you want to pull that out, maybe you can make some more room for stuff. But you've got your windshield wiper fluid up here and some cooling radiator and fans. Now, one of the greatest things about a 308, pop-up headlights. And keep in mind, this is not a strut. This just has this little guy right here. And like I said, you always feel like you're delicate with all the trim pieces and pieces of these cars, but when you drive them, you just gotta send it. Anyway, these look really great with the pop-ups, and I'm just obsessed with the louvers on the front of the car. Not to mention the perfect Ferrari horn, gluing us to the road on these gorgeous 16-inch 5-spokes is a 205 section in the front and a 225 section in the rear. Let's get out and take this thing for a drive. This instrument cluster is beautiful, but I think it's so strange that Ferrari chose to use almost teal blue colored needles on all of the gauges. And some of them follow down here. We've got a clock, and our water temp is actually down here, while you've got oil temp, fuel, and oil pressure up here. Our key right here, typical spots. Got a dog leg gated 5-speed. If you don't know what dog leg is, it just means that first is over and down where a typical second gear might be. Jumps right to life. Not quite as maniacal as some more modern V8 Ferraris when you think of like 430 or 360, but this thing still seriously does the job of cultivating style. I love having a GTS because I like having to remove the roof. That makes me really happy. These doors are really cool. The door handle actually is right down here. And then the layout of this cabin is actually really nice. This is obviously not a stock Alpine sound system in there, but I just think all the HVAC system stuff is cool because this all reminds me of Dino stuff. So you get a little bit of carryover from the old world of Ferrari, but then it all starts to grow up a little bit and become what we now know as more modern Ferrari. Before we set off, I do want to mention there was actually a 2-liter version of this car, the 208, and a 208 turbo. Those were sold primarily in Italy because of displacement regulations, making it much more expensive to run the larger V8. So there were 2-liter versions of these cars, which were much slower. And this is already not a very fast Ferrari, but I believe the 208 was considered the slowest Ferrari ever made. Into first gear. With a little ka-thunk into that gate. We've got a rack and pinion steering system that is fully manual, no assist here. And it's a beautiful sunny day, but that means we're gonna get some reflections off the dashboard. The seating position, it's a bit relaxed, pretty standard fare for this style of car. And the steering wheel is fixed, so it does drive a little like a bus in that way, but it keeps it off the knees. And you've just got to adapt to it. They're pretty smooth at low speeds. I think the only issue I have is that the throttle, it's a little difficult to modulate at the low end. And it's honestly the opposite of what you would think. Usually when the throttle is difficult to modulate in a car, it's because it's too sensitive. This, you've got to push through, sticky's the wrong word, but it's just, it's hard to get that little bit of throttle right off the rip. So sometimes I do find myself being a little bit clunky. You just want to hit it and go for it. But that's what I mean when I say you got to grab these by the scruff. Juice is up top. There's very little torque in the low and mid range. It just sounds so fantastic. Versus H2, not a fight I want to endure. Very tall gearing for the highway. Definitely a cruiser. have some crackles and pops on the overrun on this thing. I was not expecting that to be so rowdy off throttle. It's something. It's kind of luxurious. I mean, it's usable. Like, you would want to bring this to work. You would drive this. Fantastic highway cruiser. With the windows down, the roof off, like, this is fantastic. I get into like brand new Porsche 911 Targas that have a hard time doing this without massive amounts of wind buffeting. And like, here I am in an 84 Ferrari and it's just happy, and I'm enjoying myself with the top-down experience that I want. The brakes are adequate. They don't give me like a ton of confidence where it makes me want to go do crazy things, but they're definitely there for me. If you've never driven a dogleg before, you get used to it so quickly. Sometimes it feels more natural, honestly. Little car. And there's this in-betweener speed around 60 miles an hour where fifth gear feels a little bit tall for it if you're climbing a hill. That's all. Like I said, there's really not much down low. This is a Christy Brinkley car from Vacation. You kind of feel like you want to pull up next to a family and hit on the dad. So what's the buyer going to be of a 308? I think it's someone who likes heritage. It's someone who wants a nostalgic Ferrari vibe. This is a very distinct period in Ferrari's history where style really... Oh, look at this S2000. I feel like we're making similar noises. Style really became different and captured the hearts of kind of like everybody. And these became absolute poster cars for children in their bedrooms. So there's a little bit of that. The other side is that really get the full Ferrari experience in a relatively easy to maintain car. There are plenty of shops that will work on 308s and 328s, and they're not engine out services. So you're not constantly trying to figure out like, hey, where am I gonna get my engine taken out of my F355? So you're still gonna pay pretty good money for a nice one of these, but I think the overall ownership experience is gonna be a lot different in terms of maintenance costs, but also where you're gonna use this car. This isn't really a car that you're gonna take out onto a racetrack. This isn't really a car, is this guy, I don't know what's going on here, but he's just, we love a crane. Gonna just get like a nice raw experience. Like, I always have a hard time being a Ferrari guy. And a lot of times it comes down to the steering feel for me. Like, I love a 458, but the steering isn't quite it for me. I'm more of a Porsche guy in that regard. Same goes with like a GTC 4 Lusso. That's a little more extreme because of its four-wheel steering, but still, there's just something that always felt like a little bit disconnected from those cars. Whereas when you get a manual steering Ferrari, it's just right. It's just good. And you play this engine like it's a Honda VTEC. Like, it comes alive kind of over that 5 or 5,500 RPM range. And then it really sings. So you've got to be a little clever. This is like a good driver's car. You need to know how to drive it. I mean, I'm just jumping in it. This is my first go. You're seeing me adapt and learn. But it's a good time. Plus, this chassis, it's like really fun to chuck around in a corner. And because the available grip isn't that high, you don't have to be going a million miles an hour to explore it. I do think that there's a sense of occasion every time you sit in the car, because the seating position, you're like laid back, the steering wheel is elevated and up. There's certain things that you can't adjust, and those are things that you have to adjust to. Now, not everyone's gonna like that, so I would recommend, if you're thinking about cars like this, you've got to get out and drive one. See if it's possible for you, but I will say, sometimes you sit in a car in a parking lot or just static, and you sit in it and you go, oh, good God, like, there's no way I can drive this. And I've had that feeling about so many cars, Dino's included. 206 and 246. And then you get out and drive them and you just become the car. You adapt. And don't forget how adaptable you are as a squishy human getting into a car with fixed pedals and steering and sometimes even seating positions. Sometimes you get looky-loos in this car. You know, people want to see what it is. This Jeep reminds me of one right now. Yeah. Which is part of the supercar experience, but it can be a little stressful. really getting beaten down on an on-ramp by a slow-moving Mitsubishi at this speed would really kill the vibe. But like, that's, I think, what's great about these cars in 2025 is driving's gotten so bad that having a million horsepower is just like, it's futile and it will drive you insane. You will go mad. Having a little bit of a slower supercar experience might actually keep you afloat in terms of sanity. So there you have it. This is the 308 GTS experience that I was kind of looking for, but some things that I wasn't expecting. I think I thought it would be a little faster, but we'll wait for this to go by. And that's not to say that it's slow. It's to say that I didn't realize the character of this engine would be so non-potent at the low end and so excitable at the high end. It really jumps up after that 5,000 RPM or 5,500 RPM, where it really comes on cam and everything just comes together. But you'll never tire of listening to this engine. It sounds so good. It's so much fun. It's like bop, 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 bop. Manual steering, always a blessing. More of that. If you don't have a manual steering car in your collection, find something that speaks to you that doesn't have any power assisted steering. I think that is always a fun thing to have and learn. And feedback is king. So I am gonna go enjoy the rest of my time in this 308 GTS. Back to Bond Group. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.